I now recognize for 5 minutes the ranking member of this subcommittee, my colleague and friend from Illinois, Ms. Biggert.
Thank you, Chairman Moore, and thank you for holding this important hearing. I'd like to start by thanking today's witnesses and their staff for tackling waste, fraud, and abuse in our regulatory and financial system, which I believe is at the heart of our financial crisis. A couple of years ago, the Chicago Tribune published a series that revealed that gangs in the Chicago area increasingly were turning to mortgage fraud. They found it more lucrative than selling drugs. It turns out the gangs were not alone. Everyone, it seemed, was in on the act. In March, the U.S. Attorney in Chicago, Patrick Fitzgerald, brought mortgage fraud indictments against 24 players. They are brokers, accountants, loan officers, and processors, and attorneys. Mortgage fraud comes in all sizes and shapes. Scam artists inflate appraisals, flip properties, and lie about information, including income and identity on loan applications. Some use the identity of deceased people to obtain mortgages. And other desperate thieves bilked out of their homes and home equity the most vulnerable homeowners and seniors in dire financial straits. And let's face it, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. And as we in Congress work to get the economy back on track and credit flowing again, we have to address what was at the root of the mortgage meltdown in the first place, and that, I believe, is mortgage fraud. As Inspector Generals of 3 of the most important banking regulators, today's witnesses, I think, hold key positions to investigate mortgage fraud and really to get to the bottom of the turmoil that plagues today's financial markets. What went wrong? Who broke the law? Were the laws enforced? Were laws and regulations adequate? To restore confidence in our markets and address any failing in our system of regulation, including enforcement, we must determine the answers to these questions. On that note, it's important that our financial inspectors general have the resources to do their jobs. That's why today we will examine the role and capabilities of the Fed, Treasury, and the FDIC Inspector Generals. In addition, we'll focus on a provision in current law that requires IGs to review and report on any failed banks that cause $25 million or more material loss to the Deposit Insurance Fund. And I think we'll hear from today's witnesses that the material loss reviews at the lower end of the threshold make up the bulk of their cases, but don't result in significant findings beyond what was revealed when an institution closed. However, we will hear that these low end of the threshold cases take up considerable time and resources. Due to the high level of bank failures and more on the way, this MLR requirement with the current threshold level promise to become increasingly burdensome to the IGs and continue to divert them from their other important work, including oversight of TARP and other federal financial assistance programs, aiding law enforcement in its efforts to crack down on illegal behavior, and identifying failing of financial regulators, regulations, and laws. For example, today's Wall Street Journal indicated that some banks may be disproportionately laden with commercial real estate loans and other bank needs to increase capital to have enough of a cushion for anticipated losses. The sooner we get back to the root of these matters, the sooner we can get financial institutions off of the federal dole and our financial markets and economy back on track. I'd like to conclude by reiterating my continued commitment to working on these matters. In the past, I worked on the FDIC Enforcement Enhancement Act and recently the Fight Fraud Act. For 2 Congresses, I introduced a bill, the Stop Mortgage Fraud Act, to increase federal law enforcement funding to investigate and prosecute mortgage fraud. In addition, I've supported numerous reforms of numerous financial services regulations and programs, and I and others here today care deeply about getting this right. So with that, I look forward to working with my colleagues and look forward to hearing from today's witnesses. I yield back.
Thank you.